Okay, so we're going to talk about Pesach. So in general, the laws for Pesach, the laws for Passover are more stringent than any other holiday. We're very, very exact and very, very careful. Most holidays, the mitzvah is just the things you do on the holiday itself. That's what counts. But with Pesach, one of the big mitzvah is removing the chametz, which begins from before Pesach. Um, it's all has to be done before the holiday, the removing of the chametz, whereas all the other holidays, the main thing is just what's done on the day of the holiday. So if someone did everything on Pesach that they needed to do, like they brought the korban sacrifice, which we don't have nowadays, they ate their matzah, they had their maror, they told over the story of the Exodus of Egypt, they praised and thanked Hashem, they did the whole entire Seder, and they made sure not to eat any chametz the whole Pesach, and they didn't do work that's not allowed to do on the holy days, but they didn't remove the chametz from their home. They did not fulfill their Pesach obligation. So it's really important that we do the prep for Pesach, which is getting rid of all your chametz, which we'll talk about today. So all the chametz must be out, destroyed, sold, etc. by midday on Erev Pesach. Oh, somebody's trying to great. Okay. Oh, yay. Okay. So it's a mitzvah to get rid of the chametz before before the time that the Pesach sacrifice was brought. Okay. So today we just do it by the time. In the old days, they would they would have to make sure they had no more chametz left by the time they brought their sacrifice. Today we don't have the Pesach sacrifice, we just do it at that time, which is how in a minute. So not only do you have to get rid of the chametz, but you also have to nullify it and make it like useless and dust. Hi. You search every corner of your home. You clean and remove the chametz. The actual traditional search is done the night before the Seder, using a candle. And when you do the traditional search, which we'll explain soon, you have to make sure you actually say the words that you nullify it. I'm going to go to that. Let me do share screen. Do you see the Haggadah in front of you?
Yes.
The 11? Okay. So this is we have to make sure we actually say this. All leaven and anything leaven that is in my possession, which I have neither seen nor removed, and which I'm unaware shall be considered not an odorless as dust of the earth. So just in case there is any comments around, you make sure it's like you don't care about it. It's ownerless. Nothing to do with you. But you first have to make sure to remove all the chametz before you even say it. As you might forget, let's say you'll see chametz and say, oh, hey, that looks like a nice donut. And you forgot that you're not supposed to have it. No, so you can't just say that all the chametz is nothing to you.
There would be no donut left in my place. It would have been gone.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Same thing. You might forget and say, oh, crumbs. That's why you have to get rid of it. And okay, just in case you didn't, you side, you just, for somehow you missed something, you also say the nullification. One of the reasons we said, okay, if you find any chametz over the Passover holiday, what do? You need to destroy it immediately. So the traditional way of destroying it is burning it. On Shabbos, you can burn it, right? You're not allowed to burn anything on Shabbos, you're not allowed to use a fire. And so just in case we say it today, I think they say you can flush it down the toilet, but otherwise, if it's like you just find it, you burn it, so you get rid of it. So we need to both remove the chametz, we need to burn the extra chametz, and we need to sell any chametz that we put away, and we also need to nullify it. So there's 4 things that you do to make sure that you don't own or have any chametz. We'll talk about that soon. So removing the chametz from your home, and you do the search. You burn the chametz, you sell the chametz, and you nullify it. Okay. So the official search. Let's talk about that for a minute. So it's done, as I said before, traditionally done the night before the Seder. So the night before Pesach. Technically, if you're going away a few minutes, a few days earlier, you could do it then. You could do it technically you could do it any time. But the tradition, if you're home, you do it the night before Pesach, and you do it after dark, and you take a candle. That way, like, when it's kind of like darkish and you light a candle, you are more focused on what you see. Actually, could see things, especially if the light's on. You look around, but you're not like focused to one specific area. But if you light a candle, you're taking a candle, you're going around, you're only seeing the part that's lit up by the candle, and that way you could see much more if you don't skip any spots. There you go. Sec. Okay. Next. If you cannot search by night for whatever reason, circumstances out of your control, or I said, if you're leaving town or something like that, you could technically just search during the day. But at night, it's better because it's dark, and then you light the candle, so you're focused on those little areas. And before you start the search, what you do is you say a special bracha, a special blessing. Let me find it over here. Yeah, here. Here, after nightfall, gather the family, light a candle, and say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher geshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al biyar chametz, regarding of the removal of the chametz. Okay, so then you take the candle. So the traditional way is actually, this is like a tradition from the Arizal, from the Kabbalist. He would hide 10 pieces of chametz around the house, which I think is most people do today. And then you go and search for them. So like in families, usually, the kids or somebody hides it, and then the other person in the house will do the official search. And you don't just hide like pieces of bread out in the open, because the crumbs will fall and you'll have extra chametz in your house. So you wrap them up really well, so they don't cause any crumbs, don't cause any more chametz. And number two is you're gonna burn those pieces the next day. So that should be wrapped I think we use kind of like paper and masking tape, so it will burn easily. And you take a bag, and another thing you use is a spoon and a feather. And that helps you scoop it and poke into small little places, so you can check all the chametz, all the areas in your house, everywhere, under the beds, in the corners, under the couch, between the couch, just everywhere, anything and everywhere. And then once you do the whole search, so you say the blessing, you go around the whole house, finding all those pieces, plus finding anything else you may find. You put it all in the bag, wrap it up, and then you put it in a very visible spot that in the morning, you'll make sure that you get it out of the house and you don't leave it in your house. And you'll burn at least that chametz. Some people, we had neighbors when we were growing up, and they used to like have their breakfast early in the morning on Pesach, and then they would take all the leftovers of their breakfast and like burn it. So how do you burn it? As you asked, there, but you just, as long as you bring in a fire, so you could do it anyway. So when we were kids, we used to just go in the alley in Chicago, like us and our neighbors together, and we would turn upside down the cover of the garbage cans, the old garbage cans. They're metal, and my neighbors usually would do it. We wouldn't, whatever, and they would just burn it. In the later years, the city got more nervous because like more and more people were burning the chametz, and they were worried about fires and safety. So then they made some places have the fire station. They have like a special place where you could burn it. Some people my father used to work in a refining and smelting company. So he would go to work and sometimes just throw it into the big furnace that they used to melt the gold or silver or whatever, to melt the stuff to get the gold and silver. So you can burn it any way you want, as long as it gets burned. Some places, yeah. And once you say the bracha to do the search, you don't talk until you find all the pieces, just like any mitzvah, right? When you say the blessing, and then you don't talk until you finish the mitzvah, right? Like before you wash for hamotzi, or when you light the Shabbos candles, till you finish it all, you don't talk. So the same thing here, you don't talk until you find all the pieces. And you need to do this in your home, your office, if you're gonna be using your office, or during Passover, if it at least your space in your office. If you make sure there's no chametz there. You clean your car. If you have vacation properties, clean your vacation properties. You You can also sell the chametz if you're not going to be using any of these places over the holiday. And even shuls need to be cleaned for Pesach.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Okay. A few laws about cleaning for Pesach. Guess what? If you own a barn or farm, even the animals and what they eat have to be checked. Your animals cannot eat chametz food on Pesach. And you have to make sure there's no chametz in your barn, for all of you here who own a barn.
No, I don't think so.
You have to be
That's
careful that
me.
there's not, there's no chametz there. So there's actually, there is a law that says if a dog won't even eat it, then it's not considered edible. Like, then it's okay. You don't have to worry about that. But if it's anything that a dog would technically eat, then you have to make sure that there's no chametz in there. It says if, let's say, if you, God forbid, your house was in a landslide, do you have to go searching under the rubble to search for chametz? Well, if it's more than about a foot deep of like big rubble, big things, you don't have to go look. But if it's just small little stones, then you should make sure there's nothing under there that's chametz. For all you Californian.
Yeah, then the house will be humble and
Yeah.
bad.
Look under beds, look in closets, look in cupboards, household utensils, pockets of clothing. Even sometimes, the starch that people use to iron their clothing, make sure there's no chametz in there. If it's an area you'll be closing and selling to a non-Jew, then you don't have to worry about that area. You just close it up, tape it up, make it visible that that is, not, do not enter during Passover, do not open during Passover, and that's fine. There's actually a story that my father-in-law is that many years ago, when he was teaching Hebrew school, he asked all the kids, do you have a Seder? How many people are going to your Seder? I want to make sure to give you shmura matzah, the handmade special guarded matzah. And each kid said, this many people in my Seder, that many people, and he would give them their matzah. When it came to one boy, the boy said, what Seder? And he wasn't having a Seder. So my father-in-law offered for him to come to his own Seder. But whatever the whole story was, the parents, or the mother, maybe it was a single mother, and she wasn't comfortable with, maybe she couldn't go, and she wasn't comfortable with sending him alone to stay over for the holiday to spend the Seders with my father-in-law and whatever, the family. And so they ended up that she agreed that he could stay over the night before Passover, the night that they searched for the chametz. And anyway, so the search for, so he came over and they did the whole search. It was a lot very exciting. And what made it even more exciting was that they could not find the 10th piece of bread, of chametz. And that's a big problem because you can't be left with owning chametz in your house. And he looked and they looked and they looked and they looked and they couldn't find it. I mean, today we got smarter. We write down where it is. So there's no mistakes. And my father had to start to look in, some, halachic law books to see what you do if you can't find the 10th piece. What do you do in such a case?
Plant.
Anyway, and whatever, I don't know exactly what they did, but life went on and they kind of lost touch with this guy. Many, 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 many years later, it was actually like right before Menachem Mendel was born. There were friends of the family that their daughter, they had moved to Israel. They became religious here with my in-laws, and their daughter was getting married, and she was getting married to a very, like, not say famous family, but her future father-in-law is his name is Adin Steinsaltz. He translated the Talmud into English.
Oh, wow.
Which is a big, big, big deal. And like today, he made a whole center called the Steinsaltz Center, and they do a lot of like teachings and translating and everything like that in Israel. Anyway, so they invited him to come, and they told him, oh, when our daughter gets married, you'll be the rabbi. Anyway, the time finally came, and the daughter was getting married, and they said, you're going to come be the rabbi. So he went to Israel, and he was standing at the kotel, and all of a sudden, a guy taps him on the shoulder and says, oh, Rabbi Levitansky, so good to see you. And he says, good to see you too. What's your name? And he says his name. He says, do you remember me? And he's like, no, I don't remember. He said, oh, do you remember? And he started to say, at the night before the Seder, and we were searching for the chametz, and I stayed in your house, and you couldn't find the 10th piece of chametz. Anyway, this man became religious, moved to Israel, and he actually ended up working for the Steinsaltz, let's say company, for this rabbi, this great rabbi that translates the Talmud and stuff. And he ended up like being a translator or something on the team. So he wasn't just like became religious, but he actually became very knowledgeable enough to do what he was doing. And he was also there, coming to celebrate the wedding together with him. So that was like just a cute little story about the search for the chametz. Okay. Anyway, so after you search the chametz and you put it into your bag and you make sure it's in a prominent place, in the morning you need to burn it before the fifth halachic hour. The fifth halachic hours are not the fifth hour of the day, like 1 hour to 60 minutes, but you take from sunrise to sunset and you split that into 12. And then 12th of that, however many minutes it might be 50 minutes, it might be 45 minutes, it might be an hour and 5 minutes, though that's considered a halachic hour. So by the fifth halachic hour of the day, we need to burn the chametz. And again, at this time, we say the nullification prayer that we have right over here. All leaven and anything leavened that is in my possession, whether I've seen it or not, whether I observe it or not, whether I have removed it or not, should be considered non-odorless, dust of the earth. We cannot own even a little teeny piece of chametz. You can't even own a crumb of chametz on Pesach. And that's why you sell it also. You also can't eat even before the end of this time, an hour before that about. And whenever you do finish eating, make sure you rinse your mouth really well so there's no chametz in your mouth. Okay, now sale of the chametz. So it's very important that we, if you don't want to just get rid of all your stuff, let's say you went to Costco and bought 10 boxes of Cheerios or, I don't know what, you don't want to get rid of it, you can put it in a special place and close it up and you sell that. And today many people have special pots and pans and dishes and stuff specifically for Pesach. So you sell that too you sell your chametz pots and pans and plates and stuff. Because in the old days, which some people still do, is they kosher some of that stuff. We'll talk about soon. But otherwise, you just put it away and you sell that too. So you designate a closet, a cabinet, and you're placing in your garage, wherever it is, and you close it off and you tape it up and everything, and you make sure and you sell for chametz. And make sure everyone, you can do this online. Batya just did hers here. You can do it online. You can do it in person on a paper, old-fashioned way. And basically, you're authorizing the rabbi to sell all the chametz in your possession on your behalf. So he's going to. So what happens is there's a they make a contract with a non-Jew, and he owns the chametz over Pesach. And if he doesn't pay up a huge sum of money after Pesach, then all the chametz goes automatically back to its original owners. And they have this worked out, and every year this is what they do. That's done through a rabbi. Okay, what is chametz? Chametz is any of the 5 grains that's mixed with water and ferment. So that's wheat, spelt, barley, rye, or oat. And if it's in water or with water longer than 18 minutes, then the fermentation begins. Has oat in it? Granola is a mixture of stuff.
Oh, I see.
If it has oat in it, if there's no wheat, spelt, barley, rye, or oat. And the Ashkenazim, we have the custom also of kitnius, which are things that might be mistaken or may look like a grain. So we don't eat corn, we don't eat beans, we don't eat
no noodles, right? Or no, it's got to be Passover noodles.
Noodles are wheat usually.
Yeah.
No rice. That's the difference between the Sephardim. They eat rice. They eat these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not chametz, so it's not like the same. Okay. So we don't mix these flours with juice or other liquids just to be safe, or water for sure. Okay. Usually, there's a law called batal b'shishim, which means nullified with a 60th. So let's say if you have a big pot of chicken soup and accidentally a drop of milk fell in, if the milk that fell in is less than 60 times chicken soup, it's okay. But when it comes to Passover, even if a drop of chametz falls in to your, I don't know, Pesach food, that's a problem. So even a drop of chametz is a problem. But when it comes to regular around the year, you were much more lenient. Yeah.
What if you have like a year, just like eggs?
Right.
Can you use it? Can you? Because
So,
using
right,
milk is
but you're washing it with your, scrubber with
Oh,
your sponge.
okay, so
It's
it's
just
the
getting off of it.
washing.
It's really, you really have to kosher it or
Okay, so
just
that
buy
you
like
know.
2 pots for Passover and that's fine,
Okay. Mhm.
I have very little meat over the years, maybe I got a little bit more, but yeah. Okay, we cannot even derive benefit from chametz over Pesach. Okay, so even something that you're not going to eat, but you'll benefit from that's made out of a chametz product, you cannot benefit. So let's say even like a face scrub, if you make like a handmade or even there's like a bought something, you have to make sure there's no oat or wheat. Sometimes oat is in like beauty products. So you have to make sure there's none of these kind of things there. Okay. So we're more strict with chametz on Pesach than any non-kosher food or mixture all year round. So we cannot eat chametz, we cannot possess chametz, and we cannot benefit chametz in any amount over Pesach. It's a custom that Jews are like take upon themselves extra stringencies and are extra careful over the holiday of Pesach. So there are many people who do all kinds of stuff because they want to be super careful that they may not have any type of chametz. So an example, sometimes people will make fun or tease people like that. Oh my God, why are you doing this? You're crazy. But it says not to do that. We have to like respect other people and their customs that they have on Pesach. And we should look up to them and say, wow, they're being super meticulous. Usually Jews are very inviting and welcoming and we share each other's homes and stuff like that. On Pesach, it's a known thing that not everyone will eat in other people's homes on Pesach because you never know. Each person has a little bit of a different custom or this or that. So don't be insulted if someone is not going to says, oh, they're not going to eat by your home. So you don't have to invite people. Don't feel bad. If you invite someone, they say no. And we know over here, it doesn't really happen, but yeah. Okay, now koshering things for Pesach. Okay, so today, as I said before, today most people just have separate Pesach dishes or pots and utensils. And it's just kind of way it's much easier and things are so cheap today, but especially in the old days, it was very hard for people to have even 1 pot or 2 pots that they used to kosher it. And these are kosher their items from chametz to Pesach. In Israel, I think they still have big like boiling parties on the streets, but there are even places here in LA that will do it for you that are known centers that you can go and kosher your utensils for Pesach. So in general, all the stuff that we use in the kitchen are all considered chametz. It can't be used on Pesach unless you scour it and clean it really well and kosher it. Koshering is usually through boiling water or through using a hot iron or a stone, sometimes even a blowtorch, depending on what the material is and what it is that you're koshering or what the thing is used for. And that the rabbis know and they will deal with it for you. Okay, next topic, matzah. Who likes matzah?
Oh, I do.
I like matzah, especially shmura matzah, handmade garden matzah. So from the moment the wheat is cut, there's a tradition to be meticulous and guard it that does not get wet any way whatsoever till it's ground to flour, and then when it's mixed with the actual water for the matzah. So they even are careful when they cut the wheat that they cut the wheat at the right time, that the wheat isn't wet. It wasn't after a rain or something. Make sure the wheat, they like actually have very specific measurements or times when they know the wheat is not going to be wet or not going to be damp or anything like that before they cut it. So it won't be wet once they're cut. It should be very, very dry. And the same thing with the machinery or the storage containers, whatever they use to keep that wheat and to keep that flour. They have to make sure that it's very dry and clean. And then when they make the matzah, they actually use water from a well or from a river that stood overnight. So they do is they draw the water the evening before, and then they let it sit in a barrel or whatever it's in, and then in the morning they actually mix the matzah. And this is and again, it's very good and meticulous, especially for the first 2 days of the Pesach and specifically for the Seder, to use handmade garden matzah called shmura matzah. And that is that's very careful. That's very careful as opposed to a machine matzah. The easy way is the handmade matzah is round, machine matzah is square. With machines, it's very hard to make sure it's all the nooks and crannies are clean, and to make, and they don't particularly clean it and check it every 18 minutes. In some matzah bakeries, in some homemade matzah bakeries, not homemade, handmade matzah bakeries, every 18 minutes they clear the whole area and clean everything up, and then they start again. They sand down the rollers that they use, if the rollers are wood, to make sure there's no chance of chametz being there. Yeah, you can ask Nachum Mendel. Actually, he's been to the matzah bakery a few times to do that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, if you come to New York on our trip, you get to see the not that time of year actually, the matzah bakery action, but yeah. Okay, and did I say the story last year of the the barrels of beer, the people who owned the beer company? Should I say it again?
Say it again.
For some reason I feel like I said it before. Okay, so there, oh no, not this. That is a different story. No, that's the story I wanted to say. Okay, whoops. Okay, now this is the wrong story. Okay, no, so it was okay. I thought I had the story, but not the story that I wanted to know about. Oh, whoops, wrong thing. Okay. Oh, Shelly just joined us. Okay. So anyway, so yeah, so no, so okay, so it's actually a story of, I don't have it in front of me, so I thought it was the story that I pulled up, but it's not. About two Jewish guys in Europe, and they owned a beer company. And it came the night, the afternoon or the evening of, getting ready for Pesach, and they said, "Oh yeah, hi Shmerel, hi Beryl. Okay, you did the sale of the chametz this year." And Shmerel says, "No, you did." And they said, "What? No, I didn't." And they realized that neither of them sold their beer company chametz that year. And they felt really, really bad. They didn't know what to do. Oh, you do remember the story, Sylvia.
I like it. I like it. Say it again.
But I don't remember I have all the, because I think last year the story that I had was a little bit different. I don't
Okay.
know. That's the story I just pulled up now. But anyway, and I think what happened was, and they felt terrible. They didn't know what to do. They went to their Seder like so despondent and feeling like so upset. And I think that night or at the Seder, all of a sudden, like someone said, "Oh my goodness, there's a big fire." And basically they both were so upset about that they didn't sell the chametz, and neither of them sold the chametz, and now they have chametz that they own over Pesach. And somehow a fire broke out in the factory where they had the beer barrels, and it burned down their distillery, I guess. And people came to them like, "Oh no, guess what? Your factory burned down." And they were so, instead of being crying and upset, they just lost all their fortune. They're actually really happy because now they knew they didn't own any chametz on Pesach, and that made them even much more happy than the idea that they lost all their business and didn't know what they were going to do after Pesach. But anyway, since I don't have all the details of the story, I can't really say the whole story.
I think
but
the other story was they had just put it like down. What did they do? They just put all their beer, their liquor down in the river.
That was a different story. So that's a story I said last year, and
Yeah.
I thought I pulled up this story, and I realized that the story that I said that I pulled up is a story I said last year, and this was a different story. But anyway,
Yeah.
If I find it, I'll share it with you guys. I'll post the link or something. The one that was like these like big dogs guarding the barrels.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That was a good story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sylvia, you have a good memory.
I know.
Sometimes, someone